very interested to see what more you would do, and I liked what I think Mark brought up, which was the fact that you didn't want to pigeonhole into any one avenue of Marvel. Let's just do it all. Let's do superheroes. At the same time, the bigger the net, like the harder. I'm sure the harder it is to pick. Like, okay, well, that's a broad net. How do we pick all these heroes? How difficult was that from like the concept of initially we're going to do all the superheroes, and now we have to figure out which heroes are going to represent this entire brand.
So I mean, there's a lot we're not doing. I mean, it's not just every hero. It really is Avengers and sort of New York-based superheroes. You get the Fantastic Four, you get the street people like Daredevil and Power Man, stuff like that. We get S.H.I.E.L.D. Like, so it's really Avengers and Avengers-affiliated groups. It's not, I mean, there's a lot of things we're not doing. We have more Marvel sets coming. So like, it is a little bit tighter net than you might think. Marvel just is a very broad and has lots and lots of different things. And there's lots of things that we can and will do, but we're not doing here. And so unlike Spider-Man, which is focused on one character, okay, this is focused on a lot more characters, it does have a much more tighter focus.
So there is a bit more of a construct as to what it is.
Oh yeah, the way I would think of it is sort of Avengers and Avengers-related characters. I mean, obviously, it's not just Avengers, but it is very creatively tight in what it is. And we've left ourselves room to do other things.
Kate? I have two questions, but one is not really in-depth. First one is, whose idea was to make Killmonger that hot?
I think Marvel.
We didn't make him hot.
We just drew him.
Whoever
Just drawn that way.
There is specific stance that he has.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
The team.
We'll pass that on to
Yes.
the ADs. Yeah.
So outside of that, one of the things that has been really fascinating is watching Universes Beyond grow and also tap into some of these iconic properties where people have memories already. I think seeing Star Trek on there, that was one where that's immediately what I started thinking of. But with Star Trek, and I think very similar to Final Fantasy said as well, is how vast it is and how much there is to actually adapt. So when we're looking at what's coming next in Final Fantasy, but also like in the approach to Star Trek, which I know y'all probably can't say too much, how do you kind of whittle it down to those core pieces that are going to pull fans in with those memories, but maybe not miss something in the process?
I can talk a little bit Star Trek without, I can't get into details,
Yeah.
obviously, but one of the things that's great is we have a partner we're working with, right? The partner we're working with, they know the property really well. And so Paramount was a great partner in that they have lots and lots of data about Star Trek, which they shared with us. And so we really, from them, learned, okay, these are the most popular characters. These are the most, we learned from them what their fans really enjoy so that we could focus on, okay, if you're Star Wars fans, you know, I'm sorry, Star Trek fans. If you're Star Trek fans, you know, what exactly is it that you enjoy about Star Trek? And so using that data really helped us figure out where to focus things and what things to do.
Yeah. And speaking from Final Fantasy, you know, we are avid fans in the building too. We're just a collection of nerds of all these IPs as well. And usually someone in game design, someone in this department, etc., is a big fan of that IP and they get put on the project. You know, the four of us that were the leads on Final Fantasy all love them, all of different games. We're able to lean on each other. And then when we realized, you know, the 4 commander decks, for example, hit those numbers. For the scene boxes, we went with another 4 different numbers to give those fans something.
One other thing that you were touching on, and maybe without even realizing it, but when we make a Universes Beyond set and we're trying to like nail down the IP, we're in the room, the partner's in the room, and fan doesn't get to be in the room because we're making it for you. But we have to ask, what do you want to see? What do you need to see that compares to, like, we have the data to make confident decisions, we have people with extreme passions inside the building, but what's the thing that we're forgetting or missing? And we'll ask that question every single time. If you were at any of the PAX panels for Final Fantasy, I exhaustively talked about how we put 16 games into one set. I'm happy to talk about that if you want to hear it later. But every single time we made a decision, we'd be like, okay, I'm happy, you're happy. Would someone who is only a fan of X part of this be happy? Yes or no, and then the decision tree would go from there to ensure that, not trying to throw the widest possible net, but to focus where people will expect to see something, so you feel smart by knowing what's going to be there, because you should see it, and then what are some things that will delight you, either because you are so entrenched, or you're new, and that allows you to interact with the IP in a way that you are really excited about.
And the one other interesting thing, I'll just use something that I've announced thing. Sometimes we find this neat intersection where it's both a deep cut for the fans, it's something that the fans will really enjoy, and it just is something Magic players would like in a vacuum. It's like Squirrel Girl was the perfect that, which is, look, for Marvel fans, she's a real beloved character, people are real excited to see her, and if you know nothing, if Marvel just isn't your thing, there's so many Squirrel fans in Magic, like, okay, I guarantee if you play a Squirrel deck, she's good in your Squirrel deck, you know.
I immediately thought of my friend who kills me with 80 token squirrels. every freaking time.
If your friend,
Squirrel deck.
if they have a Squirrel deck, they will play Squirrel Girl, I guarantee it.
Yeah, Eric.
Hi, Eric Francisco with Esquire magazine. I was actually curious about Lorwyn Eclipsed. Just looking at it today, it reminded me of Eldraine meets Moonborough. I was curious if you could talk about just the aesthetic and artistic inspirations. Were there specific movies, books, cultural folklore that you referenced in creating Lorwyn Eclipsed?
So, okay.
I could talk a little bit about that too. It's up to you.
Well, why don't I talk original Lorwyn, and then we'll talk about sort of the new.
Yeah.
So we go back way back to when original Lorwyn came out. We were really influenced by Celtic folklore. That was actually the core of it. So early Magic did a lot more with sort of mythology. As we got later, we got more into sort of pop culture and stuff. But early Magic was a lot more like, you know, Egyptian mythology and Japanese mythology. So we were really into Celtic mythology. That was the thing that sort of started us out. So now we'll talk about where we got to now.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that the art director and the world building creative team that worked on the set were really invested in bringing. Lorwyn has a lot of nostalgia for fans, and it's looked back on really fondly, especially for its art style and creative, as well as for a couple standout cards. I know that the art team and the creative team were really interested in channeling that kind of hand-painted classic feel. I know there's a ton of like traditional artwork in the set because they really wanted to push that the like handmade feeling. Like, can I say specific non-Magic IPs as inspiration points, or?
I don't know what you're gonna say.
Well, I think.
Do one as a treat.
Yeah, like the Dark Crystal as like an excellent, I think, baseline for us in going back and finding what the kind of modern Magic approach to Lorwyn is, because we can't quite. I don't think we wanted to do just a straight up return to all the aspects of Celtic mythology we didn't get to cover the first time around. We ended up orbiting what I would kind of call like weirdo fantasy, where like a lot of strange creatures, a lot of oddballs, and sort of sometimes menacing, sometimes charming, but always a little off the beaten path.
Yeah, another fun thing about original Lorwyn, the reason it came about was we wanted to do 4 blocks in 1 year. Oh, crazy, 4 blocks in 1 year. And so I said, I'll find a way to make this work. And so what I pitched was 2 mini blocks, like a large set and a small set. And then we wanted to connect them some way. So we came up with this whole idea of like, it's a light version of the world and a dark version of the world, so that they'd mirror each other but feel like separate things. And that's kind of where it started from. And then the trick going back was, well, we don't have 2 sets, we have 1 set. Well, we have to do the light side and the dark side. Like, how do you do both? And then we came up with a way to the world gets intermingled, and now it's a marble cake of light and darkness.
Yeah, in the back there.
Adam Marino, Gaming Trend. So for people that might be coming into Magic this coming year, they see a set that they really enjoy, they get back to Final Fantasy at the end of this year, and they're like, oh, well, now I can get product of my own for my kids for Christmas. And then they try to get into Magic proper. There's so much lore, there's so much history, there's books now, there's past comic books. Where should people, if they're coming from maybe a more narrative side, where should they start to be able to enjoy playing on top of learning about the world itself?
I'll start with the game design side
Yeah,
and then
sure.
head to you.
Go
So
for
we
it.
have our foundation kits right now. That's like the perfect evergreen. Hey, start learning to play Magic here. It's got the tutorial kit, etc. So new players would want to start there, and then whatever, like you mentioned, if there is a Universe Beyond that catches your attention, we have starter decks in those. We have a lot of avenues for new players to get into their favorite IP with their favorite characters, and that'll just lend a lot of like, I'm going to learn Magic because I love this card. This is going to be my new commander, build around that, and a lot of resources online for that. But for narrative,
Right. So first of all, who's funding this, by the way?
Mine.
Go Birds.
Go
Oh,
Birds. Go
Go
Birds.
Birds. The Magic is a funny game, and I've gotten this question a lot from people who are interested, but like you said, not sure where to start. And usually what I tell people is you start by playing the game. And I don't mean that to be flippant. I think that a lot of people's path to caring about the setting and the lore and all of these things is a accretion of like proper nouns that you start to develop upon like reading flavor text, seeing card names, all of that. It's this accumulation of caring and investment. But you know, that said, obviously I'm going to tell you to play the game and buy the cards and all that. We do try to make every story that we release for free on our website stand alone in its own right. A satisfying story that you can start at the beginning and feel like you, even if you hadn't read the previous one and don't intend to read the next one, you'll get something out of it. We have, as of Edge of Eternities, started paying professional voice actors to do audiobook versions of them also. So I know I really like using audiobooks to get through my reading backlog when I don't have a lot of time on my hands. That's a great way to have it on in the background or whatever. And I guess the one thing I would say is if you are lore curious, story curious, the one set where it may be difficult to just drop in for, a quick read is Reality Fracture.
Yeah.
I would attempt to just I'm sure there's going to be a great YouTube lore compilation of leading up to it. Take a peek at that before going in.
I want to add two things on that real quick. Also, if you're just looking to learn about the lore overall, the Magic Story podcast is really good. We brought two people who are internal that do it as a passion project, but they love doing it, and they basically just explain the lore on a podcast. They talk about it for a bit, and they've done it back for stories for a few years back. And then two, I disagree a little bit. Yes, Reality Fracture, you got to know a lot going in, but I think one of the intimidating things about Magic Story is that you do feel like you're dropped in and it's still going. Reality Fracture is going to be the conclusion of this arc. And so if you're the kind of person who likes to really dive in deep to a story and read the whole thing start to finish and binge it, Reality Fracture is going to be the place to do that, because the story is going to have a beginning, it's a ways back, and an end that you can read completely all the way through.
Joseph at MemoRPG.com. One of my favorite cards were printed. In fact, my favorite card were printed is Crypto Command.
Okay.
Yeah.
So seeing the command cycle come back with Lorwyn Eclipse brought a lot of joy to me. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about the design process of making the command cycle, but it doesn't look like you're just doing straight reprints. You're creating whole new designs with these cards.
Well, in general, one of the things we like to do, design is iterative. We make something, we see what people like. If they like it, we make more. And so the commands are a perfect example of that Aaron made them way back in Lorwyn, and it's something we've done multiple times. This is not the first time we've done commands again. The trick when you revisit something is, are you bringing something new to the table? So for example, original Lorwyn, they were monocolor, and these, as you noticed in the one we demonstrated, multicolor, so that it just lets you do something slightly different than you did last time. And so usually something like that will give you a little bit of a tweak on how you design it.
and Kindred as well.
Oh, and they also Kindred.
Jason Finelli, GameSpot. I have a lore question specifically.
With the cadence of releases changing and adding more universes beyond, that means you have more time to develop a story within that set. You don't have to make 6 sets worth of story anymore. You only have to make 3. Do you find that that extra time, for lack of a better term, allows you to maybe explore ideas a little more, or maybe pull narrative threads you might not have pulled before and see where that goes?
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I think on one hand, the larger gaps between Magic Multiverse sets mean I think it's easier for fans to lose track of what's happening between one set and another. But the other thing I can say is that among my coworkers, my bosses, the people I work with, there's never been so much enthusiasm for the stories that we can tell within our own multiverse. And I think that is in big part because of Universes Beyond and how much it's shown how deeply loving a property and loving the characters and the settings and everything can be transformative for a product, for a design, all of that. So I think there is a great faith right now in Magic's setting and characters and story, which is really wonderful to be working with them.
Stacey?
Stacey from Page Turner's blog. So to kind of piggyback on that with the books, with the new book that's coming out, I'm super excited because I'm probably one of the few people who liked the last couple books, but I really enjoyed them. Like just from her book standpoint, not necessarily how they necessarily fit in with Magic, but it was just a good book. What made you guys want to go back to that? Because I know my husband always talks about the nostalgia of the books and the Pat Packs from back in the day and stuff. So what made you guys go back to having a narrative story to come out along with it? And then if you could just give a little bit more info about the book, because I vaguely remember you saying it was YA, but I could have
Yes.
completely misheard.
No, so I'm happy to tackle both of those. In terms of why we went back, I think we never stopped wanting to make novels and tell these longer form stories. I love web fiction. I think the medium has its natural limits in terms of how long can you make someone read a story on their browser. One of the wonderful things about web fiction is that it's pretty, because it's not bound like traditional publishing to this long cycle and external partners and things like that, we can be really responsive to it. We can, and so the handshake, I think the handshake between the web fiction that we put out and the cards that we release and the card sets has never been tighter than it is right now, because I am working so closely with the design teams. They are so interested in the story. Like I said, a lot of great faith right now in Magic's setting and story and characters. So web fiction lets us be really close to the cards in a way that I think is special for Magic, and it's one of the things that I think sets us apart. That said, yeah, we've never stopped wanting to do books. I love books as objects. I think you can do so much more. You can take so much more time with a story like that. So I mean, I'm just super excited to get back to it, and having it be something that is canon but can release alongside this web fiction that is so tight to the card set is really exciting personally. I can't say a huge amount more about the book, but like I said on the panel, it is YA. I think it's a really great genre fit for Strixhaven. It's about the first interplanar pilot program where students from a couple different planes in the multiverse all arrive at Strixhaven for a year of education and encounter some trials and tribulations here and there. it's really great. Shannon is not only a frequent Magic contributor, but also a huge Magic fan, and you can really tell that she brought her love of the setting and the brand and all of its characters to this work. So.
I'm really excited.
I also want to stress that it's not, a lot of times in the past we tried to do the books telling the main storyline. This is not that. This is, goes like, you're still going online to the short stories to get the sort of the main, here's what's happening in the cards. It's just something that takes place in that environment at the same time we're at the environment. So that's
more companion.
Yeah, it's more
than,
companion.
Like,
it's a lot harder to do a novel that has to like tell the exact story that's in the cards. That's a lot
I know
harder.
the last set there was like a side character that like kind of exploded out of the book but wasn't in the main set.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So you could kind of see the separation from the book to the cards, which I think with the web fiction you guys have really honed in on with that. So.
Barry,
Barry White, Magic Untapped. Mechanical question real quick about Lorwyn. So Mark, you mentioned earlier, Lorwyn shot more light world, dark world. On Innistrad, you had day, night. The flip cards in Warning Eclipse, is that a lessons learned from that? Is that an iteration, or is it something completely different?
Well, I mean, Lorwyn Shadowmoor has moved away from, it's Lorwyn everywhere, it's Shadowmoor everywhere. So beyond the fact that day-night is, we're not super fond of day-night from a mechanical standpoint. It had some issues, but the idea that you could have two creatures and one could be a Lorwyn, one could be Shadowmoor, and that they could independently switch was key to how the world works. And so we wanted to make the cards sort of reflect that. So double-faced cards are great just because, transforming cards, you can go back and forth. And as you notice in the cards we showed you, we give you a little more ability to choose to go back and forth rather than some external things making you go back and forth, which is part of matching the story. So.
over here.
Hi, Jake from Draftsman.com. I was thinking about the earlier question about new players who really love a certain set, and I look at the next year's release, and I get really excited about a lot of them, and I'm sure a lot of people do. And if most people like me, they see one that they like the most, and they think, oh, maybe I'll get a collector box for that one. I really love those characters and stuff. But I think about the prices of collector boxes this year, even on release, and certainly now, were really, really high. Like Final Fantasy was over $1,000 if you want to get one. On TCG Player, for example, is that still a concern with future sets and printing enough? And if so, are there any plans to try and reduce that cost going forward?
It's a complex question.
Yeah.
Because we set MSRP and we print what we can. I mean, we've said this a number of times. We had our printers running overtime to print Final Fantasy. We still couldn't keep up with the demand, and it's a good problem to have, but it is. We want our players to be able to play with the cards they want, to be able to get them. So it's something we talk a lot about, but we don't have an amazing oh, this is gonna happen. It's something we're keeping our eye on, but we keep printing more and more cards, and people keep wanting more and more.
Yeah.
Which is part of creating really cool things that people love.
I'll note on the collector note of if a player wants to play with a certain card, collector boosters don't offer any unique cards compared to the main set. So if you want the commander cards, you want the main set cards, you can get those in the play boosters, the commander precons that we are constantly putting out. But collector boosters just have the fancier versions of those that you can chase after.
Who hasn't asked a question yet?
Thanks. Hey, Jake from Polygon. I wanted to talk about the Hobbit set, which I'm really excited about. The Lord of the Rings one was amazing. But my question is sort of what is the scope and scale, as much as you can say about it? Obviously, The Hobbit is a pretty small book compared to Lord of the Rings. So how did you approach that from just a scale perspective?
I mean, I can say that the thrust of it is we're trying to do the book, and as much as possible, we're taking things from the book. Middle Earth is a larger world, and so we obviously we're tapping into something a little bit bigger. So we have a little bit of ability to supplement a little bit when we're trying to make sense, but it really is The Hobbit. We're not trying to do Lord of the Rings again. We're trying to do The Hobbit. Obviously, they cross over, and there's a lot of a little bit of mix between them. But what we spent a lot of time and energy looking at, okay, what are all the things that represent The Hobbit, and what can they be? And there's a lot of environmental things and things. Magic is really good in that you have main characters and things, but you also have these are just things in the world, and yeah, they get referenced once in the book, but they're in the world, and so a lot of that environmental stuff we could fill out the set with.
Yeah. You're trying to go a little deeper on sort of the background stuff that you have.
We have the ability to do that, yes.
One of the things that Tolkien's very good about is when you are reading The Hobbit, he's talking to you and explaining to you about world lore, and then also telling you the story about The Hobbit. And so that is a creative reflection that we were able to go into about learning more about Middle Earth, more about the denizens and species, and then parallel in context to the actual main narrative of The Hobbit that goes through, which coincidentally is how we make Magic sets. So it's continues to be a great overlap.
Jason?
Hi, Jason again. Just from a design standpoint now, Marvel and Star Trek and Hobbit, they are known for their characters, which would be legendary creatures. But how do you avoid making the set oops all legendaries, right? You can't just have all legendary characters, and you have to have normal creatures as well. So how do you find that? Is that part of like you talked about the Final Fantasy tier system before?
Right.
Is that part of how like do you have like a number of legendaries that you don't want to eclipse based on how many cards are in the set, or how do you kind of balance that while still trying to represent as many fan favorite characters as possible?
I'll reiterate the tier system he's referring to. So with Final Fantasy, we looked at all the games and we're like, what do you know most from this game? What do you know second most, et cetera? And we tried to tackle all the top tier things, and then if there was room, dip down where able. And that comes to legendary creatures and stuff as well. If it had a name character in Final Fantasy, for example, we gave it a legendary card. And we're still working on the balance with our limited sets, and that's probably it.
Yeah, so there's a thing in design we call AsFan that talks about when you open a pack, how much of the cards are any one particular thing. So common it affects AsFan the most just because there's the most commons in the pack. So traditionally we don't, we Spider-Man, for example, has legendary, but like most of the commons are legendary just so we get the AsFan down. One of the things we've discovered with some Marvel, just a really good example, like Marvel's all about the characters. One of the things that's fun about the Marvel license is, and when I say the roster goes deep, it goes deep. And so we really are also finding ways, like if we have slightly more legendary characters, can the set help that and offset it, to like make sure that's not causing problems. But part of doing Universes Beyond is we want to deliver what we expect the audience to want. And if you're doing Marvel or Star Trek or like a lot of these licenses, the characters are super important. So we are going to represent that. There's a balance, like I use Spider-Man just because it's public. There's some things where instead of doing the character, we did the generic archetype, and then, we're showing you the most famous version of that archetype, but it's Selfless Police Captain, not Captain Stacy, stuff like that.
Okay.
And some...
Nope, you got it.
Some of the product lineup lets us do more legends, like the commander products, the scene boxes, etc. We can just jam those full of legends because it's a singleton rule format anyway. That's where like limited, we're still finding the balance, but commander decks and stuff like that let us express more of those characters and go deeper.
Also, creatively, if there is a character that doesn't get a chance to get a legendary creature card, or perhaps that character is known for like an event or a thing that doesn't actually make a good mechanical top-down, we can express them on spells. So a lot of the stuff that I did in Final Fantasy was like, we couldn't have 500 legendary creatures in our main set, so we put characters on spells or enchantments or promo versions or alternate art versions, or put them in the commander deck. So at the very least, the texture is there. They are not forgotten, even if they aren't specifically a legendary creature, because the way to express a character is not just by getting a creature card. If we only ever did that, we would definitely be just like dismissing half of an IP every time we worked with them. So we have to find other creative solutions to ensure that we're getting everyone's favorite moments or characters, and we have to internally accept that, hey, maybe instead of making the 7th version of this one legend, maybe we do 6 or 5 and we open up space for other legends. Or if the IP is more focused and constrained, maybe it's actually better for us to do multiple of that character, because the next tier of characters maybe is just like a significant drop off in popularity. So there's a lot of evaluation, kind of the data that Mark was talking about before, that we have to compare against to see like who gets crunched in, who gets crunched out, and then if they do get crunched out, where can they go creatively that's still very satisfying.
I have time for a couple more, so who hasn't asked a question yet? Philip, have you asked one?
Hi, Philip, CG Magazine. I'm puzzled because Lorwyn first came out and released 5 Planeswalkers. We had Lorwyn 5. And you guys briefly spoke previously about how some Planeswalkers change colors based on like what they go through, like in the storylines. So the Lorwyn 5 look vastly different now than they did 18 years ago. So I'm just wondering like how you guys like navigate that, and how will we see characters that were previously not in Lorwyn? Will we see what happened over those 18 years, or is that going to be addressed? Did 18 years happen in real life and in Magic? Like, I just have
How dare you keep saying 18 years? Oh my gosh.
around that singular question and all the planes that we've been introduced to and all of the crossovers, and I mean, Nissa and Chandra were in a relationship and Nissa wasn't around.
Omen Pass. I mean, there's things, but really the core experience is, okay, we're going back to Lorwyn, especially 18 years later, and Shadowmoor. What exactly are people expecting? We want to do some new things and offer up some stuff they don't expect, but, as we did in the slideshow today, we're showing you a lot of characters you might recognize. These are characters that were in the original Lorwyn set. Now we're seeing them again. And so there's some sense of continuity that you want. And the longer since you've been there, the more you're obligated to try to make sure that you're capturing what was exciting the first time. Worlds that we visit a lot, maybe we have a little more liberty to change them just because, okay, this is the 4th time we've been to a certain place, but that's the core of it, is we're trying to capture the essence of Lorwyn and Shadowmoor, and most of that is, okay, what are the things in Lorwyn and Shadowmoor that either existed that we want to remind you of, or what are new things that the story's playing into that we want to make sure we capture because, okay, the world's different now, and we want to play into that. So it's a balance.
So as a lore note, I think it has been 40 in-world years between the previous Lorwyn set and this one. And I think the Lorwyn 5 never canonically visited Lorwyn. I believe they dreamed that they went to Lorwyn. So
Also, I know Mark has told this story, but the Lorwyn 5 weren't originally meant to be in Lorwyn.
No.
They were originally meant to be in Future Sight.
Future Sight, yeah.
And they weren't ready. Like there were still knobs to turn and things to figure out, and they weren't ready in time.
Right. We ran out of time. They're going to on the future sheet. Like, here's a future thing you've never seen before. Planeswalkers. In fact, Tarmogoyf in it actually references it for the first time in reminder text, because we knew we were going to eventually do it. I would also say, one point to disagree with you is, I think all the Lorwyn 5 are mostly the color they were in the Lorwyn 5. The only difference is Johnny sort of added green to his green-white, but the rest of the characters are pretty core to that color that they were in.
So. Ooh, fight it over.
Okay, so just because this question's going to get asked to you guys, I'm sure, a million times this weekend, 4 Universes Beyond sets next year. Depending on who you ask, it's either I hate Universes Beyond, just keep me back in, magic of my youth, or it's I love Universes Beyond, I'm here because my favorite IP was printed. How do you juggle Universes Beyond fatigue, especially when you're putting out one more set than normal next year? And it feels like just the feedback that I was starting to get from the panel, going straight from Reality Fracture to within a month, going to the next Universes Beyond set. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of breathing room. We kind of felt that a little bit with Edge of Eternities going straight into Spider-Man. How do you balance that messaging, making sure that you're not enforcing Universes Beyond fatigue while still getting fans excited about what's coming up?
Yeah, it's that is also a complex question because, as you said, different players want different things, and where we see Universes Beyond fatigue the most is it's honestly online.
Sure.
Whereas when you go to a game store, when you walk around and you talk to people selling Magic cards on the show floor, there isn't actually people fatigued by it in how they act. We'll put it that way. There's what people say online, and then there's what they actually do.
Sure.
And what we're seeing in what they do, Final Fantasy is a great example. Like, nobody was talking about Universes Beyond fatigue, and that came out a few months ago. So I think that's not to discount people who feel that way. People obviously do feel that way. And we talk to them and we listen to them, and what we do, it wasn't, I was mostly responsible for the panel content, and I don't think it came out as much as I wanted it to, but when we talk about things like the novel, when we talk about things like the Netflix show, like our deal with Legendary, like, we are investing in Magic story. And so if that's what you love and that's what you want, we are finding more ways to put that out there than ever before as well.
Yeah, this is really like we can't say a lot, obviously, but it's sort of the tip of the iceberg
Yeah.
in terms of what we have planned.
Yeah, so don't discount that certain people feel that way, but we are also providing more and more ways to dive into the Magic multiverse, to find things to grab onto that you love. And we are seeing that, yeah, there's so much love of different Universes Beyond sets that blows us away. And, you know, Mark likes to say it, our head of our studio likes to say it, but, you know, Magic is for everyone. That doesn't mean everyone's going to love everything we do. But we want, you know, Mark went around after the panel and was just like asking people, what are you excited about?
What's their favorite thing?
Got so many different answers. I don't know if you want to
Yeah, so basically after the panel, I just like gathering data. So there was a gap before the next, before the next panel. So I just went around and I said to them, okay, what's the most excited? Like we just announced things. What were you most excited by? And the really cool thing was everything got mentioned, which was really nice. And it was really fun that each person was really excited for the thing they were excited for. Like everybody was honestly really excited about something. But it was really interesting how just different people were very excited by different things. And so like one of the, this is a lesson when we get new designers, I have to sort of teach them is that Magic just isn't a unified audience in the sense that Magic is this thing that people experience, but everybody experiences it in their own way. And there's no like one unified way that people experience it at all. And that one of the joys of the game of Magic is, look, we've made 30,000 cards, whatever. We've made a lot of cards. And you get to pick and choose what you want the game to be. And you can pick the things you love, and Magic can be the thing you're most excited by. And even I just did a signing and I talk to the people when they come up to sign, and each person tells me the thing that they love about Magic. And you know, I met the little girl that loves dinosaurs, and I met someone who's like, I'm into elves, and they're very excited for Lorwyn because there's elves in Lorwyn, you know. In fact, 3 people today said to me they're so excited about Star Trek coming out because I'm finally going to get my dad to play Magic.
Yeah.
And so that's when to me the genius of Magic is it is so many things to so many different people, and that I think there's an enfranchised crowd that just wants to absorb everything online, which is not the normal experience, but it is the loudest voice online. And I get for them who like, I've just tried to absorb everything, it seems like a lot's going on. But most people pick and choose what they want, and hey, the thing they're very excited about, that's where their energy goes. And that some sets are more for them than others, and that's the nature of how most people absorb Magic. It's not, I absorb all of it all the time, it's I pick and choose what I want, and then I'm excited by the things that most excite me, and that completely varies from person to person.
The Hobbit, by the way.